Hey, wonderful AP Gov students. We have today's office hours were to do any vocab review, not mandatory. I think two people came by just for a question. No one really wanted to hang for vocab review. So I said, you know what? So I put a little thing together. I'll go over these terms and I'll just post it to our YouTube channel. And you guys can use it for prep at your own leisurely time. And hopefully you have some of that free time over this weekend. I have just 5 or so terms from this unit that I'll go through quickly, and we'll spend more time on these terms as we go through the unit. So, first one is the Establishment Clause. So you hear about the Free Exercise Clause and the Establishment Clause, and they're both related to the idea of separation of church and state. All right. So the Establishment Clause is the part that says that prohibits the establishment of religion. Okay, so we cannot have an official religion for our nation. It can't be anything, right? Some of the colonies and states, some of the colonies had the official religions under our Constitution. That can't happen. And I thought I would share this image. If any of you have ever been to Monticello, this is where our buddy TJ is buried. And notice it puts 3 of his accomplishments on his grave. He was the author of the Declaration of American Independence. He was the author of the Statute of Virginia for Religious Freedoms. And he was the father of the University of Virginia. Nowhere does it even say he was president, right? These things are more important to him. He was our 3rd president, right? And to him, he really took pride and really believed in the importance that he put that Statute of Virginia for Religious Freedom in there, and before many of other areas did. And a lot of what we learn about our freedom of religion goes back to some of the initial statutes. So the next part is the Free Exercise Clause. And this says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, right? So that was the first part, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, right? All the other things. So in other words, not only can the government not have an official religion, established religion, you can't be denied to freely exercise your religion. People can be like, oh, you can't be that religion. Okay. Notice some things it says here, right? It's typically invoked when the government prohibits behavior that a person's religion requires. What would be an example? I don't know. Something that you think you could get in trouble for, but you say no, the government requires it. Wonder if that would be political conscience, like for the draft. I don't know if that. I don't know. I'm getting off topic here. When the government requires conduct that a person's religion prohibits, that would be part of it, right? When individuals claim that a law burdens or makes more difficult religious observances, like which has come up with the voting rights issue in Georgia recently, about not having voting on Sundays when most people are out, or what can you have on a Sunday? There's all sorts of things that can stem from this. Okay, next we have selective incorporation. While the Bill of Rights expressly protects citizens' rights and liberties against infringements by the federal government, it does not explicitly mention infringement or regulation of rights by state governments. Over a succession of rulings, SCOTUS established the doctrine of selective incorporation to limit state regulation of civil rights and liberties, holding that many protections of the Bill of Rights apply to every level of government, not just the federal. So when we went over the Bill of Rights, we said there's a few reasons why Madison did not want them. One of them being, well, don't states have their own rights anyway? Many states had Bill of Rights. But if a state tries to do something that conflicts with the Bill of Rights and under the federal law always trumps state law. All right, we see that pattern. Time, manner, place restrictions are something we see a bunch of examples of. That's when there are limitations on your rights, but they're supposed to be content neutral. Examples would be capping the number of protesters, like only so many people can go in this area, right? Only so many people can fit. It's not because you don't like those protesters, it's like for their safety, but that means all protesters of both sides should have that limit. Um, or barring early morning or late night things, once again, for safety. So examples like that. And there's usually a three-pronged test to see if this restriction is valid or not. It must be content neutral, right? It can't be like regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on. It must be narrowly tailored to serve a significant governmental interest and must leave open ample alternative channels for communicating the speaker's message. So, okay, if you can't do this, what's another way you can get that message out? Symbolic speech. We saw Mary Beth Tinker speak this week for the landmark cases, and we saw that as an example of symbolic speech. There she is holding her detention pass. So symbolic speech consists of nonverbal, non-written forms of communication, such as flag burning, wearing armbands, burning draft cards. It's generally protected by the First Amendment unless it causes a specific direct threat to another individual or public order. In other words, you can't burn a flag on a school playground, right? Libel and slander. This is our last one for now. That all falls under defamation. So the act of damaging someone's reputation by making false statements. So just because you have the freedom of speech doesn't mean you can hurt someone's reputation by making false statements. If it's in print, whether it's through text or in a newspaper, that's libel. And if you speak it, that's called slander. This has been a lot in the news lately, post with the election fallout. The My Pillow guy, right? Dominion voting systems. They said you spoke bad. You said our systems were broken, and they weren't. Those were falsehoods. So they're suing him, suing Giuliani as well for the same type of statements. Fox News is asking them to, So you see defamation in the news a lot. All right, those are just a few of our terms for this unit. Hopefully this helps, and hopefully you see relevant examples of all these things in the news. Maybe we'll talk about that in other office hours. All right, have a great weekend, AP Gov people. Go be civic minded or something.